can't we seem to get back to at least winning the ACC? I mean, we've only won the Coastal once.
We did have the other one where we tied and would have gone to the ACC championship game, but self-imposed a sanction that year. So that is worth noting as well. But yeah, we have one outright ACC Coastal Division championship. To your point, I think that it is because they're trying to. I mean, you bring in people who have a mindset and a mentality, a program and a system that they want to run. And for the most part, they've done that, these prior coaches, at the exclusion of evaluating what's going on the field. If you look at, if you go back to Al Golden, go look at the offenses that Al Golden's teams put up. Those offenses put up numbers. I mean, big-time numbers. The defense was atrocious. But he said, oh, this is the defense I want to run. This is the guy I want to run this defense. And Al Golden, directed Mark D'Onofrio to run a certain kind of defense. And then he was intractable about changing it when the product on the field dictated that something needed to be changed. Then you flipped it to Mark Richt, and it was the opposite. You brought in Manny Diaz to run the defense that Miami should be running with the talent and the players that we have. So that all of a sudden takes off. But then you undo what Al Golden did on offense, which was actually good if you go back and look at it. And then you want to run what you want to run, and that's fine. But then Mark Richt didn't want to give up control. He didn't want to. He wanted to call plays, so he said, "I'm going to do that." He was the only person on the staff who had called plays. He ended up not wanting to fire his son, which needed to be done at quarterbacks coach. There were things that he needed to do to fix the offense that he was unwilling to do. So I think that for the 15 years that we're talking about it being really, really bad, it's been head coaches being stuck in mindsets and paradigms and schemes that don't work on one side of the ball or the other, and being unwilling to change it to get it to where it should be. I've been saying for years, almost as long as I've been on Twitter, that Miami should have gone to a spread offense. And there's different kinds of spread. There's spread, air raid, like a Mike Leach, Washington State that's going to throw it 80 times a game, but you're going to throw 20 swing passes, which are ostensibly extensions of the run game. You can run spread to run, which a lot of teams do around the country. There's variations to it, but I think that Miami should have done it because that's the kind of talent that we have in our recruiting base. And every team down here in South Florida does that, with the exception of the teams like a Belen Jesuit who doesn't have the talent to compete with big-time teams, so they still run a wing T. Cool. That's one school. Cypress Bay did it for years with Mark Wandolo as their head coach because that's what he had been coaching since the 80s. That was two examples of teams that have not run spread systems. But if you look at all of these teams around South Florida, from any level, 8A, 7A, all the way on down, a great team, a small team, but teams where you're getting recruits from, they all run versions of spread. Why are we not doing something like that? So it's just this intractable nature of not wanting to change. And I get it, because if you come in and you got this job, you got the job at Miami for a reason, because of what you've previously done. So you don't want to necessarily come in and immediately change who you are, but you have to evaluate the process. And if the results are not proper, then the process needs changing. And this is what Al Golden and Mark Richt failed to do.
All right. So Manny, and people are giving him a lot of credit for this. Manny sees the problem with Dan Enos, fires him, brings in Rhett Lashley from SMU, who's going to give us what we all want, the high-flying, a little bit of an air raid, spread offense. Mm-hmm. So my question to you is, do we give Manny credit for that hire, or is it just it had to happen because the offense was such a train wreck last year?
I think both. I think we give credit because he did what needed doing, but still are questioning why it needed doing, because, I mean, the offense that we got from Dan Enos was not what we were billed for it being. If you remember all of those pressers early, it was, we're going to be diverse and variegated, and we're going to stress and challenge defenses by doing things that, they're not prepared for. That happened very infrequently, if ever. And the one example that I really have about that, well, there's a couple. One, in the Florida game, on that first drive when Jaron Williams got sacked, Jeff Thomas ran a beautiful, beautiful double move in the middle of the field and was butt naked wide open doing backflips and cartwheels, but the offensive line didn't give Jaron any time to see him. So I saw that and said, oh, if you can scheme up a route like that, then maybe, okay, it didn't work on this play because the protection wasn't there, but maybe we'll see that it works out later. I mean, it very rarely did. You saw the one against Louisville when the guy was spinning around looking at the sideline when D. Wiggins was running a post off of a double move on the boundary. That was great. But, like, think about these times, okay, in the Louisville game, you did the fake tunnel screen wheel route to Will Mallory for touchdown 5. That was awesome. But, I mean, if I'm sitting here and I'm really counting down the 3, 4, 5 times a year that you really scheme something open like you're talking about you're going to be able to do, then that's a problem. So, yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of both. It is questioning why the offense failed so much, why we did not get the scheme that it was said that we were going to receive from Dan Enos as our offensive coordinator. But then also giving Manny credit for seeing that what he thought we were going to get, we did not get, and knowing that he has a shorter leash than others because this is his first time as a head coach. So he didn't have another year to say, oh, well, Dan Enos might get it together, oh, whatever. He saw that there was a change that needed to be made, and unlike other coaches who have been here over the last 10, 15 years, he made it. So, again, question why it had to be made and the evaluation of Dan Enos at first, but credit for making the move that needed to be made by bringing in Lashley to run a different kind of offense.